Nobody puts Crypty in the corner.
That's the guy that you came to see. Make some noise for him.
What a great turnout. I'm so pleased. I gotta tell you, this has been like, maybe the #1 convention I've ever gone to. I don't go to very many of them. And they told me that this one was just awesome, that the fans were off the hook and everybody was great. I would meet a lot of like-minded people that are into horror like myself. It did not disappoint even a little bit. You guys are awesome. I loved how many people dressed up last night, and I apologize if I got too drunk and groped anybody or did any kind of Crypt Keepers type things.
You don't have to apologize for that.
I did wake up in my own clothes in my hotel room, which was great to hear. I know somebody kissed me on the dance floor, and they were very tall, and I did worry whether it was a guy or a girl, because everybody was dressed up. People assured me she was a girl. So I don't know. Anyway.
If you walk away with that mental assurance, that's all that matters.
That's all that matters, it's true. Unless there are pictures. Everybody posts things these days.
They are probably on the internet already.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, I started out loving horror since I was a kid. I collected Tales from the Crypt comic books as a kid, the original ones, and I used to have back then they used to believe that, as a lot of people know, they used to believe they caused juvenile delinquency. And mothers across America tried to get them banned, tried to get the Senate, to, yeah, I know, right? And there you go, proof in the pudding. And
cover your ears when you hear that word.
Am I scaring her? Aww. We won't give her attention. She can disappear into there. So my mother, used to take them, and so I started hiding them in my box full of Kassir comics that I had. And I remember after getting Tales from the Crypt, I came back to visit my parents in Baltimore and went running down the basement to find out where my box of comics were. And I said, Mom, where's my box of comics? Oh, I gave them to some kid down the street. And I was like, you have any idea how much those Crypt Keeper comic books are worth, especially since I could sign them now? She had no idea. She's, oh, they cause juvenile delinquency. So there you go. But I think my favorite as a kid were the Universal Horror, the original movies. Somebody told me this weekend that they saw it on Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein this last week on the big screen, which would be a real treat because I usually got to see them on a thing called Twilight Movie that was on every afternoon in Baltimore when I was growing up. And they would do everything from Doris Day movies to Mothra, and then they spattered in there. They would have Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, which is still my favorite comedy. And of course, Frankenstein, Dracula, the Mummy, Wolfman, all the Boris Karloff stuff too. I grew up in Baltimore. I got my degree in theater at Towson, which is now called Towson University. Back then it was Towson State. I went to school with people like Charles Dutton, who a lot of you know as Rock from the series Rock, and a great actor who had come out of the Maryland State Penitentiary to come do theater, when I was there at college. They went on to go to the Yale Drama School. We used to say he had to write his memoirs from jail to Yale. But he's done really well for himself as an actor. And John Glover went to Towson and he used to come back and do some great workshops with us when I was a young student. And if any of you guys watched Dexter, Eric King, who was in the first, great show. Eric King, who was in the first season, played the Afro-American detective who was always, we went to college together. So there's some really great people at the school there. So I got some good training. Moved to New York to do my first off-Broadway show. Closed after 3 weeks. I think I was getting paid $175 a week. which was the, off-Broadway standard at that point, 1980 really. And I didn't want to get a real job. I wanted to stay an actor. I wanted to pursue my dream, even at the cost of not getting it, So I would get up on Saturday and Sunday mornings, put on whiteface. It was, quite proficient as a pantomime, and would go out in front of the Metropolitan Museum on Fifth Avenue, in front of the big steps that came down from the museum, and wait when people came out of the museum, and I would climb a building that was across the street. For years they were redoing the face of this building, and they had scaffolding, so I'd climb up it and hang a big banner. People could see me from blocks away, and they'd come running and sit on the steps, and I would street perform out in the middle of Manhattan and pass the hat, and make a couple of $100 to $600, which was much better than $100.
Better than off-Broadway, yeah.
Off-Broadway, and supported myself that way in between theater jobs, and worked with that monkey is freaking me out, or whatever that is on your shoulder. And it's so cool. I love the way that you don't let him go to sleep. You make him move the whole time. It's great. It's commitment. So I was with a comedy group out of Baltimore called Animal Crackers, and we were kind of like a Baltimore's version of Second City. And we did sketch comedy and that kind of thing, so I had a background in that. And so we did USO tours all over the world, got to perform for US troops as a comedy troupe doing comedy, which was a lot of fun. Got to see our tours overseas, got to see the world, which was really amazing. It was an amazing thing. And then while I was in New York, things started to branch out a little bit. I got a part in an off-Broadway show called Three Guys Naked from the Waist Down. I did get to keep my pants on most of the show. It was a musical about stand-up comedians, and it starred myself and the beloved Scott Bakula, who a lot of you guys know from Quantum Leap and Enterprise and those kind of shows. And a guy named Jerry Colker who wrote the piece, and it was about 3 stand-up comics, and they were kind of misfits, and they were talented at what they did, but the 3 of them together became like an overnight success. And then the second act was all about the trappings of Hollywood, going from New York as stand-up comedians. They got their own show called Hello Fellas, about 3 cops in drag. And of course, like my character winds up committing suicide. It's so bad. And I got a lot of attention for it. It was a big hit off Broadway in New York. And while I was doing the show, some talent scouts from a show that just started called Star Search came on, and it's hosted by Ed McKee. And I was like, we want you to come on and be a stand-up comedian. And I'm like, I'm just playing a part, right? I'm not really a stand-up comedian. They said, you can win $100,000. I went, shit, I'm a stand-up comedian. So, with my sketch comedy background and having done street performing, I, started writing these. We had to fill like 2.5 minutes of material. I started writing like these specific sketches of material. I would do like The Wizard of Oz in 2 minutes, As coroner, I must concur, I thoroughly examined her. We represent the lollipop you. I would do all these different characters in my act, and I kept winning. I won, like 5-6 times, and I was automatically pushed into the semifinals, and came up against a short, ballsy female stand-up comic by the name of Rosie O'Donnell, and I beat her in the semifinals. And then I came up against a big, broad guy in a big red suit named Sinbad, and beat him in the finals. And I won $100,000 going from street performing to winning $100,000. Thank you. I remember them having Tom Jones as a guest on the show, and they go, we have a surprise for John Kassir. He's going to open for Tom Jones in Vegas. And I'm like, I have no fucking hat. How am I going to open for Tom Jones in Vegas?
How many 2 minutes